Hello, people. Good morning.
Hello.
Morning, Vishal. Morning, Lakshmi.
Hi, morning.
Morning, Lux. Morning, Anurag.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Morning to all of the people live with us. We have here Vishal and Anurag from Hylobiz team. We are here to discuss about open banking APIs and their implications and benefits for financial services. Um, uh, Open banking API are in for the common man to understand. It is publicly available APIs or application program interfaces. When it is used in banking or financial services, it allows the third party what you call third party companies to use banking services and make it available for the public in a more usable or rather more user friendly ways. So I'm handing over the baston to Anurag to uh, go ahead with the questions for Vishal on this subject. Thanks, both of
Thank
you.
you, Lakshmi. Thank you, Lakshmi. Hello, everyone joining this session. It's one of the most interesting session that I mean, I'm glad to participate and have this chance to ask these questions with Vishal because in last 1 year, guys, if you see with this pandemic, uh, businesses were failing to understand the value of going digital or the value of digitization. And APIs definitely have helped these businesses to transform their current processes to a more advanced automated process in a way where no more manual intervention is required, and from anywhere in the world they are sitting, they can transact, they can do their and can do a number of services. Now, in this process, of course, a lot of other stakeholders in a business, for example, specifically focusing on where Hylobiz plays the role today, we have got financial service providers, and we have got the accounting or ERP software solution providers to these SMEs. And the way APIs are playing the role in ensuring and providing this entire automation and digital transformation for these small, medium-sized businesses is something we all should try to know from Vishal now, how he sees, the role that it has played, especially in this hard times of pandemic. So Vishal, how do you think this open API? I mean, India is embracing the open API concept, open API banking concept, and how do you see this playing a role, especially to a segment which uses technology, but up to a certain extent. Now, for them, this word is a very fancy word, which probably they do not even understand what does it mean. How do you see this as in India are embracing this?
Hmm. Yes, I guess one in general, from the open banking API perspective, if we talk, uh, and if we talk in Indian context, this is not really a new phenomenon. I mean, I guess overall the foundation around the open API technologies or open API infrastructure was laid by NPCI almost a decade back. I mean, that is when the blueprint started falling in shape, wherein probably the who's who of the most advanced financial services ecosystem in the world, they were still with the very legacy systems. So I guess NPCI worldwide, I wouldn't shy away from saying that has been a pioneer, and India, from that perspective, has been on the forefront or the pole position of the financial infrastructure of how it has shaped up in India. So Open API, I guess, at a national infrastructure level, India was the first one, wherein you would imagine now that there is an entity right at the national level. I mean, if you see in a pyramid structure, there is NPCI and this whole India stack, which shaped up over a period of time, wherein you had IMPS coming up in the early days, RuPay coming out, UPI. I mean, it's a mind-boggling API, which I mean, from end consumer to end consumer, right? I mean, you can just settle money. I mean, it is all happening within seconds, and it's all thanks to NPCI. So I guess the whole journey started from there. While from the Western world, if we pick up in the past 10 years or so, maybe a lot of digital banks popped up. The open API became a norm. I guess 2018 it was when PSD2 became a compliance in Europe, which enforces the banks to implement open APIs, open banking APIs. And that is where I would say most of the technology and the technology service providers who are providing technologies in the core banking systems or the middlewares of the enterprise service buses to the banks, they all started building these open banking API layers for the banking infrastructure thereafter. So yeah, so I guess this is how bank side of the journey has evolved, and India has embraced it, I guess, at a national level much earlier from Indian context, if you're talking. And if you're talking of Indian banks, again, I guess we were together, Anurag, on one of our earlier startups, wherein we did work with RBL, we did work with ICICI, Yes Bank, and this is still, I guess, 7-8 years back when we were consuming their APIs. We were settling money into our escrow accounts and our settlement and the pool accounts all over the APIs, right? So this was when we did our previous businesses. So yeah, so I mean, banks in India again have had these open APIs for quite some time, and various use cases in Indian context has happened. Addressing the other piece of it, which you said, how really it works for the SME, MSME categories, wherein especially these businesses, how does the open banking APIs help them? While these guys do use technologies, but then for them, it is still a fancy word, as you rightly said, right? I mean, open banking API is something which you need people at Hylo, people at banks, people at other fintech companies would understand very easily. But talking of some of our customers, let's say some tire distributors or some manufacturers who use technologies, and technologies in their reference would be, they use a Tally as a ERP, they use Salesforce maybe as a collection engine on the ground. They use some homegrown mobile applications. So they have a combination of technologies, which could be homegrown depending upon the size of the business, or which could be an acquired technology with a local provider or a national, international provider, and so on. So on those grounds now, if we talk of open banking API, right? I mean, those businesses definitely tell you when you go and meet them, and this is something again between us and most of our team members. We have seen this enough number of times. That these guys tell you at a very business and a use case level that, hey, Vishal, I have Tally, I have Salesforce, and I have this mobile application or a website of mine through which I'm doing business. Connect me straight into my bank, right? This is how their use cases. And that is what exactly translates to an open banking API, wherein the guy basically needs to consume the open banking API that is coming through. And that is just not that side of the capability, which, of course, India and many banks in India progressively are building these capabilities today. It also needs the capability on the SME side of the technologies that it is using, right? So be it the ERP, be it the collection platform, mobile application. So does that tool and the technology have an appetite to either consume an API or give an API out, so that these two guys can talk over an interface? It's like, mobile application is talking French, but the API coming from the bank is talking German. So how do these guys talk, right? So there has to be a common protocol between them. There has to be a common understanding. And that is something which I guess is the use case which together we have been building as Hylobiz, and been quite a bit of heavy lifting over the past 2 years. But yeah, today I guess what we are talking is we do understand the SME side of the challenges of the various technologies those guys use, and how those get connected into the banking ecosystem. So it's more like, what we are talking is many-to-many integrations, which has to happen. It is not one-to-one integration, right? Because Now we talked of just one SME in this context. So now just talk of 10 SMEs, right? And these 10 SMEs are going to have different ERPs, different collection tools, different websites, and each one of them possibly also need to talk to different 10 banks because that is where their bank accounts are. And this is the use case that I guess we are building, but then there are use cases around lending, there are use cases around students, there are doctors specific neobanks falling in place. So I guess different use cases, people are solving it differently. So there has to be, I guess, someone who knits these pieces together, which has to be someone like Hylobiz, right, who basically does this heavy lifting of integrating on either side of it, one of the fintechs. And that is where I guess most of our fellow entrepreneurs who are building parallel fintechs in different use cases, exactly, they are doing exactly the same thing, wherein they are solving for a specific use case. They understand what the market and the segment is, what their challenges are on the other side. And on the banking side, I guess open banking APIs are just a commodity today. And to that point, I guess even most of the business tools, what we are talking of, we can call open APIs at large. I mean, open APIs at large is a commodity. I mean, every single technology company is moving towards it. And this understanding, I guess, is very, very clear in the market that if you are not open and you do not have open APIs for others to consume, you won't really scale as the time evolves. I mean, there are a lot of analogies around Kodak versus digital cameras, and that is something which are being spoken today if you do not really build out an open API economy around your tools. So hopefully that addresses the 2 points on that.
Sure. No, perfect. Vishal, absolutely right. Spot on, because this is the time that the businesses needs to understand the importance of sharing, the importance of giving exposure, giving that relevant information direct to their customers, so that they can at the end of the day can build their very relevant use cases, which fits in their ecosystem better than, and these are the guys who can define it better than anyone else. So it's important, right? Now on this within this API side of things, Vishal, so many partnerships Hylobiz has won and are trying to build the model in a way that, various banks we are working today, we are trying to consume and then try to provide the SMEs the solution where they can connect with their bank, they can probably download their statement, can try to do the fund transfer, etc., etc. Quite a few use cases, and of course, the ERP side also falls in place. Now, one of the key thing is the data, which is very important to be safeguarded. It should be secured. How Hylobiz is ensuring, especially the kind of businesses Hylobiz is serving, wherein again, as I said, they may not be they understand technology, but they may not be using the technology which a large enterprise today is using, or the processes they have defined to ensure this is completely secure, safeguarded. So how do you see Hylobiz? What are the processes? If you can just try to throw some light on that, which helps our SMEs, our customers, to safeguard this entire data from exposure.
Sure. So yeah, so I guess one thing is essentially, I mean, the way we look at it, largely we are a conduit, a pipe between the SME's existing business tools and to the banking ecosystem. So yes, I guess there is no shying away or going away from the point that the data that SME has on their respective business tools and the ERPs, it would be traveling to us, at least a part of that information from a use case perspective that is relevant in terms of, let's say, receivables or payables or lending or connecting into the bank and stuff like that. So that side of information is something definitely, as you rightly said, is a key concern from a SME perspective that, hey, look, my data is going out to you, how secure it is, how do you ensure that no breach happens, you secure it fully and stuff. So to that point, an easy answer is follow the banking grade security processes and all the right set of certifications that one needs to make sure that the data is secure. It's more to be seen as that this is not really customers' data, right? I mean, this is the data which you have an obligation to keep it secure. It's very similar to how bank is obligated today to hold mine and your money safe, that it just doesn't get manipulated while the number is sitting in the credit ledger, right? So on the same lines, so now a little bit tech maybe, but from a technology standpoint, these integrations are all tokenized integrations, just like how the banks do. There is a private public key encryption or the authentication implemented, OAuth and various other things, which possibly you know a lot more, Anurag, than I do. But that's largely at the authorization piece and the initial piece. And once the data is already on the transport layer, your encryption algorithms, while it is on your storage devices, your encryption algorithms apply there as well. So you secure all this data through these multiple hooks. And these are like all standard practices, I guess, which even the banks follow, or someone like an Amazon or a Google would follow today, or a WhatsApp they would follow today, in terms of how to keep each and every data secure. I said Google and my phone is listening, so sorry. So that's the consumer or the SME side of data security. And then, of course, you make sure as a business that you are just not selling it as a brownie point, right? I mean, you basically making sure, and you're diligent that you are, of course, gonna safeguard it fully end to end. And to that point, you make sure that you are getting yourself audited on a regular basis. So this is something, again, which banks go through as a regular process, though enforced by RBI, but most of the bankers, if you would walk in, I mean, they will just not slip onto a process like this, because they understand, it is people's money. Is exactly, I guess, is how we relate with this aspect of security of data, because for an SME, I mean, data is everything for them, right? And that is something which we cannot compromise. So we, as we speak, as Hylobiz, we are ISO 27001 certified, which is info security top standard one can be from a security, from an audit perspective. While we integrate with multiple banking partners that you spoke about just now, I mean, just think of it. I mean, HDFC or Yes or Kotak or ICICI or various names that we work with, they would not really work with any company unless you qualify all the security norms that are required to be secured, from the data security, from the encryption, even little processes on a regular basis, which are, the VAPT compliance and the audit compliance. VAPT is here, the vulnerability and penetration test and stuff. So all of these, I guess, is something which we do follow as a regular process to make sure that we are able to give enough and more comfort to the end user and to the banker on either side of our horizon, that we are doing everything to keep the data secure. And I guess that's the best that I can explain about it. And yeah, I guess these are practices which continue to evolve, because as the ISO standards evolve, as the PCI standards evolve, as the new technologies come in, as people like you and me evolve in business and technologies, there are people sitting out there on the destructive side, right? Be the hackers and be the guys who want to do something different with everyone's systems. So they continue doing it. And I guess the only answer to this whole thing is how diligent and how regular you are to follow these processes. And if you continue doing it, I guess the chances of keeping the data secure and the transaction secure are very well covered. And that's something which we would make sure that we would continue.
Sure. Perfect, Vishal. So now we are live in Dubai. Dubai means UAE. And there is a massive difference in terms of the availability of these APIs, of how India's stack is there today, and any company can jump and can utilize these APIs and can build a lot of these use cases, be it a corporate focused, mid business focused, or a retail consumer focused business. With this experience coming with UAE, how do you see the difference between the two launches? Both using the similar concept of API first bank connected banking platform. So how do you see the difference, and where do you see countries where this is just have started just coming in? How do you see, like, how much time are these countries going to take to reach to a level where innovative uh, stack, we call India stack, is there today?
Sure, sure.
And how it
So
is hampering the overall solution? Is it hampering or not? What is that at Hylobiz? You're trying to overcome those kind of challenges which you have sorted already in India. Now, for a new market, how do you see these as challenges, and what is that the
sure,
strategy?
sure. Yes, I guess something similar to India stack that we are talking of. That is some journey for every single country, possibly at least in our use case that we are talking of, that we're looking at India, Middle East, and Africa as our markets. So selectively, if I would go around within Middle East and Africa, outside of India, for example. So in Middle East, uh, Bahrain, for example, is pretty advanced. They have uh, APIs available right from the central bank level, which can be exposed at the bank level, at the lending partner level, at the fintech level, and stuff. Just that the regulations, regimes, and to operationalize a given business, to scale up in these countries, more so, I guess, in our context, from a business use case perspective, investment versus returns, someone would think about. But the API infrastructure at large is available in a country like Bahrain. Saudi Arabia, they launched a SAMA sandbox from their Saudi Arabian Monetary Authority, pretty much on the similar path. But now, one thing that we all need to see and acknowledge and appreciate probably is while India has evolved from 2012 to where it is today in 9 years, obviously, I mean, these countries will not take that long. I mean, these countries at a India stack level or a national stack level, right? If they have to put something at a central bank level or build NPCI equivalent entities for their respective countries, I mean, for them, it is more like replicating the proven models, right? I mean, that is how the world has gone about. For example, India is so used to, or this part of the world, Africa, Middle East is so used to replicating any and every business model that happens in the Western world. So
Mhm.
an online store starts in the US, we start one in Middle East, we start one in India, and they become the local leaders, right? And basically, you are replicating the same operational models. And that's exactly, I guess, what is already starting to happen. We all know this publicly that NPCI, for example, has spun off one entity which they call it as NPCI International now, which is actually
Mhm.
gonna help different countries set up NPCI like body and
Mhm.
extend the same set of technologies that NPCI has innovated, built over the past decade, right? So now all we are talking is just the implementation time, right? I mean, it
Mhm.
could be 6 months, it could be 1 year. Similarly, if we talk about banking level APIs, so banking level APIs, I mean, these are the same uh, banking technology providers, right? I mean, it is Oracle providing FlexCube, Finacle from Infosys, Mises, uh, and five more, Terminos, T24. These are all the core banking solutions. There are predefined ESB or the middleware layers around it, and these guys have built those API sandboxes or API layers already. So it's all about
Mhm.
now the banks to acquire that API layer at cost and whatever commercials these guys would agree. But from a stack perspective and the technology perspective, I guess the whole ecosystem is already built out. It's not really, in my mind, it's not really years away out there, right? I mean, this is so in UAE right now. When we were there together in UAE in 2019, and we saw only one bank which had APIs available at that point. And today, as we see, there are 5 banks, right, within a period of 16 months. So these guys have basically acquired those API layers, and they have moved on to those use cases and the journeys. And we are talking to some of them, and we know that they are advancing very quickly. So I guess ecosystem-wise, this is all going to fall in place very quick. But yeah, from UAE perspective at large, from, I guess, maturity perspective, adoption perspective, with the banks, with the users, with the national level central bodies, give and take, consider it that some of these markets are 3-4 years behind right now in the current context. But as we progress forward, maybe in, I don't know, in the next couple of years, we could be neck to neck in terms of stacks available for technology. But at the same time, if you would look at in Africa and some of the biggest economies in Africa, they are probably neck to neck with India, or even more advanced in some of the use cases. So look at Nigeria, look at Kenya, look at South Africa. I mean, these economies, these countries are fully digital. I mean, Kenya, for example, was the mother of mobile money. I mean, Safaricom is where it came from, and it was 20 years back. And no one knew mobile money at that point across the world, right? So yeah, so I guess different countries at different stages, and they have done things differently. But yeah, I guess everyone globally, all bankers, all regulators, all businesses, they do understand the power of digital, availability of the open API ecosystem from the banking infrastructure and also from other technologies infrastructure. And they, I guess, moving towards it. It's give and take, its next couple of years is what my guess would be, that most of these countries, at least for the focus countries that we are going after, they would have all the stacks and all the foundation level infrastructure available for us to build what we really need to deliver. And to address, I mean, in absence of that today, is it really impacting us? So yes, a little bit, I would say, because we go via some other payment pipes and some other routing in terms of processing the same transaction today, which effectively becomes a little expensive for the SME, ultimately for the businessman, to do the same transactions. And for a mass adoption, the reality remains that you need to bring those costs down. And that is where the adoption would be at a scale. And that's something which would happen with the foundation falling in place, as I said. So yes, I guess it is impacting, but it is impacting collectively us and the SME in terms of cost. But if we are just talking about from a transaction completion standpoint, we are able to do that transaction completion even today with alternate routes. But yeah, it would be great to have those foundations falling in place as soon as it can, so that use cases like us can offer a lot better value and service to the target segment we are serving.
Perfect. Right. So Vishal, before we proceed with the question and answer session with our audiences, one last question. Rather than a question, it's like so many different set of customers of different sizes, different line of business, different processes, etc. We are serving across 2 countries now. Country A is well advanced in API. They have got this infrastructure in place. Country B is have just started picking it up, and things are going to come that way. Now, one use case that you would like to share with our listeners, wherein how these APIs that, as Hylobiz, I mean, we are like facilitators, right, to these businesses to automate their processes. One use case which you think has definitely monetized big time, leveraging on this entire proposition, right? And how the change has happened, like before using or using a platform, built or APIs or consuming the APIs from this platform to their processes. Before and after journey, if you have a use case in mind which you can share with our audience.
So when you say monetize in terms of possibly how it has effectively helped the businesses in terms of either efficiency or increasing business and stuff, right?
Absolutely.
So I guess I would possibly quote two of these use cases very quickly. One, I guess, plain vanilla, from the whole efficiency of the connected bank on one side, connected ERPs and internal tools on the other side. So basically zero interference and zero process or the tools changes for the users on the SME side. They are with their business as usual as they were. And now this is one of such business wherein this business sends out around 800 invoices every single month, repeat invoices. And now their whole challenge was around distribution the invoices, reminders of these collections. Once the money starts coming in, reconciliation was a mess. Someone was looking at the bank statement, uploading the bank statement also in some cases wherein the ERPs provide these facilities, but that's not foolproof. I mean, that's something, which continues to have error, and there is a human interference required all the time. And it basically delays, right? I mean, it basically delays your whole cash flow realization as a businessman. That when is that you are able to see that you or your market or your customers owed you X rupees, have those X rupees landed in your bank account or not, right? So this whole end-to-end cycle on a monthly basis for this particular business partners of ours was taking anywhere but between 22 to 25 days on month-on-month basis, right? And this is something with, I mean, just the simple automation and simple connectivity, what we were able to do on the use case that we spoke just now. We do this by 10 days, 90% of this guy's visibility is in. And that visibility is like, the money on the bank. It's not even something that he is chasing his front office or collection guys or an accountant. And this whole ERP and the bank connectivity brings him a consolidated view on WhatsApp, on his dashboard, that boss, out of this X, 90% is here, and this is still due. Do you want to take an action? And it is in hands of the business owner now, or any of his P&L head, let's say. So that's one, I would say, cash flow efficiency. I mean, overall. So if you see, I mean, he has cut down his collection cycle by 50% or more than 50%, just by little automation. And these are things, which, again, I guess as individuals in our own lives, it continues to happen today with a lot of technology innovation, wherein my Airtel bill or my Vodafone bill or my insurance bill, it lands on my phone, and then there is a reminder a couple of times. And if this whole journey is automated end to end, wherein I can press a link, I go to a page, it already has my policy number and the amount and all of it. All that I just need to do is get onto net banking if it is all connected and finish the transaction. But if it comes as a reminder message, this is your second reminder, please pay now. This is your third reminder, please pay now. If already paid, please ignore this message. I'm just going to keep ignoring this message, right? I mean, that is broken process for an end-to-end transaction. So I guess that's one. Wherein we definitely saw a great value to our customer. And those guys essentially have been our pioneers in terms of helping us evolving the product, pushed us towards building the payables layers and so on. So we see those as a winner use case, of course, and that was our starting point. The other one, which I would love to share, which we are actually going through right now from an implementation standpoint. This is the whole value chain, wherein the manufacturer, his distributor, and then there is a whole network of dealers, right? Not really so much around the whole connected banking piece, but yeah, I mean, there is an angle to that, and I'll talk about that too, wherein now the manufacturer Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So I guess some Wi-Fi issue, and we were thrown out of the broadcast studio, so we are back here. So quickly winding up on my last piece, wherein I was considering the whole supply chain use case. So now two pieces that this particular manufacturer and the distributor across the value chain that this guy wants is the flow of goods that he would want to see and have a control over it. Wherein these guys already have the existing processes in place, right? So they have ERPs in place. So they do not want to touch any ERP and do not want us to build any ERP capability as such. So there is Tally in this particular use case, right? Wherein it's deployed across the value chain. And all that they're saying is this whole inventory visibility across different hooks should be visible at a manufacturer level so that he knows that at which level what is sitting and at what point in time he needs to direct the principal distributor to push in which direction, how much inventory, right? And he wants to have this control. And this is all, like how we call it, the carry and forward kind of a distribution. C&F is how we know these guys as. So that's one side of the problem that these guys want to solve. So what essentially they are talking is, this is more like connected ERP. This is not even connected banking, right? So it is purely connected ERP, that ERP at this hook, at this hook, at this hook, and a level above, and the level above. They are all talking to each other. There is a single view, right? So there is a single view of the whole inventory. So now for an ERP to be able to build such a capability, and especially developed and evolved ERPs, right? Wherein someone has to do it's a very different use case. Wherein someone like us, as Hylobiz, right from the beginning, we built ourselves as microservices architecture, wherein it was just not open banking APIs. We were also talking and building the invoice level APIs, wherein we can pick the invoice as is from a Tally or a QuickBooks or a Inventory or a fact, doesn't matter, right? I mean, different ERPs, we can just connect, open the API, pick this information out. Similarly, we did purchase orders or whatever. So we have now our inventory API on which we can pick this information and we can layer it at different levels and present it to different people as they want. Right? So that problem gets solved with this whole microservices architecture and inventory APIs and connected ERP side of the problem. Now, that is problem one at the manufacturer level. The second one that he definitely wants to also address is that supply of these goods is also linked to the purchase orders, invoices traveling within the value chain. And of course, any transaction end of the day has to settle with money, right? I mean, unless money comes in, the transaction is not complete. And that is where the previous flow that we spoke about, wherein now the invoices have gone out and the reminders start chasing. And this visibility again from this particular use case in the whole supply chain, the manufacturer needs to have this visibility that, is the money moving and which distributor is able to collect how quickly, who's the efficient one, who's the less efficient one, something more to be done there, maybe give additional credit period to these set of people to push more products. So multiple use cases, and that's something, with the brand, some of the brands that we are talking of. So while with the banks, we are talking of how to build the cash flow based lending products on top of what we have. With the brands, what we are talking is the alternate lending and extra credit cycle from the brand or from the manufacturer is actually lending, right? I mean, it's an alternate to lending. These guys don't need money if they don't really have to pay for another 20 days for now. So this is the whole power of different use cases and APIs connecting to each other from different functionalities, if I may say so, be it inventory or invoices or payments or collections. And I can only say it. I mean, we understand these use cases. We see that there would be a huge value add to these manufacturers in terms of visibility of their secondary sales channel now, which they do not have visibility today. So if they have visibility today, eyes closed, I mean, they would be able to get a better efficiency out and get a better growth towards their business, because today their visibility is just stuck at the principal level, as in what they have sold to the level one. So these are two use cases. I mean, there are more which keep coming, and we keep learning and evolving. And by the way, I mean, this is all learned from the market, and we're still learning further. So I could be off on few pieces here and there, but I guess these use cases do make a lot of sense to us in terms of understanding of what we are solving right now, and monetizing not only for them, I guess for us also is very clearly visible, and we are able to see the money coming.
API. So basically, APIs is the bottom line is how the APIs have helped serving so many use cases, and in future also maybe more than we can even imagine where we are sitting today, right? So to the listeners, the floor is open. Please ask questions. Vishal, thank you so much for explaining so far very well in a perfect way. Basically, I mean, to all the developers sitting on this side, are really appreciating the way you explained in a layman language to the listeners, to the business people. Thank you. So our listeners,
my pleasure.
Please.
My pleasure. Happy to answer any questions that we have. No questions? Do we do a count of 5?
I think so.
Comes through.
Just wait for another couple of minutes. Otherwise, let's wind up. I think the questions I've asked favors the entire audience, and probably that's pretty much what they wanted to understand. There is no question. Alrighty then, Vishal, I think time to wrap up. Thank you so much for this session. It's very, very important to explain our whole thought process behind how open APIs we are leveraging, or how this is opening the doors to unknowns and to the problems which were not solved for so many years. Thank you once again, Vishal. Have a good day. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you, Anurag. Thank you. Bye-bye.